Thanks, Shishma. Let me have the honor and privilege of introducing our next set of speakers, Manju Joseph and Sanjib Sahu. Manju and Manju and Sanjeev have been Cisco veterans and are currently technical content leaders here at Cisco. Manju has about 28 years of experience in the field of technical communications and is a perfect blend of strategic thinking and people-centric leadership. She truly believes in the power of transforming ideas into actions and has led many initiatives here at Cisco TechComs. Sanjeev is an engineer by education, a technical communication specialist by profession, and currently a people leader who's strongly committed to transforming, enhancing his performance and his team's performance. He played a pivotal role in developing the assessment rubrics for Cisco TechComs, performance assessment rubrics for Cisco TechComs. Manju and Sanjeev are currently actively instrumental in driving Cisco's AI native strategy. And today they are going to help us understand how leadership is changing in this AI-driven era. Welcome.
Thank you.
So Shishma was talking about, right, 5 minutes before food, 5 minutes after food. I also had the same thought, which is more challenging, hosting a session before lunch or hosting it after lunch. Which one? Okay, so let's take the challenge head on. And welcome to this session of ours where we are going to talk about leadership in the times where AI is penetrating our lives in more ways than we even know, right? So today we are going to see how leadership is evolving when AI is changing the way we work, the very foundation of it. But we'll start with ourselves. I'm going to talk about self-leadership. How is that relevant? Which traits are important to keep you resilient and relevant in these times of transitions? What are you going to talk about, Manju?
So I'll then make the shift from personal mastery to collective impact. What I'm going to talk about is human-centric leadership that's anchored in empathy, trust, and well-being. And that's what's going to help build resilient, future-ready teams. So with that, Sanjeev, get us started, please.
Okay. So self-leadership is important at all times, but is even more important at the times of transition. Why? Because you are in a state where you have to make decisions around what to do next and how to do it. You're going to take the uncharted path. Has TechCom seen transitions? Absolutely, yes, right? If you see here, you can see the transitions happening over the years in tools, formats, methodologies. What you will agree is to that fact that as years have gone by, the rate at which these transitions took place have become faster and faster. Anyone here knows how much time it took Netflix to reach 1 million users? Morning, I guess one of the speakers did call out, right? It took a year to reach 10 million. 1 million users, any idea? 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? Just give a shout out. Let's see. One more airport for grabs. Okay, let's bring it to more recent times. How much time did ChatGPT took to reach 1 million users? 2 months? 1 year? Okay, we have some statistics on these applications that we use quite often. Netflix took 3.5 years, 25 years ago. Okay, ChatGPT took just 5 days, 1 million users. Threads from Meta took just 1 hour. So this is about the adoption rate. But what about the pace of development? AI can code. If it can code the next generation of AI. AI building AI. The rate of development will be exponential, right? So more than the AI race, it is the AI pace that we should be worried about. And we have heard about it in the previous sessions as well, the speed at which AI is evolving. Now, typically when individuals are challenged, they go to their leaders to look for guidance. But your leaders themselves are experiencing this AI transition for the first time. They don't even have a precedence. So you and us both are taking this uncharted path for the first time. And that is the vulnerability we have to deal with. Manju, do you think the space is affecting people leaders in a way?
Definitely. I think, Sanjib, you would agree that in our previous avatars as individual contributors, you and I, probably the biggest transformation that we saw was moving from, the unstructured to the structured framework, what we call the XML data wave. But what's different there, I had the luxury of 1 or 2 years at least, right, before I could learn, adapt, and get comfortable in that new authoring framework. But look at how things are happening today. It's at breakneck speed. So I can't have the same yardsticks like we had before. Today, as a people leader, I have to acknowledge that it's absolutely fine to feel overwhelmed and stressed in this AI era. And that's my role, Sanjeev, is to acknowledge the pace and the sense of urgency and the expectations that we are having from our people.
Absolutely. So now let's do a little bit more deep dive into what is happening with the self-leadership front. Now let's define self-leadership before we get into the traits of self-leadership that is evolving. So this is how the definition goes. It is the practice of intentionally influencing your own thinking, behavior, and emotions to achieve your goals. What are the goals? Our main goal is to make an impact, right? As writers, if you think in that context, your goal is that your content makes an impact on the customer's front by reducing the friction between the user and the product. Obvious, right? You can also think that the impact can be on the writer's front and increasing productivity by using AI workflows and so on and so forth. Impact is what we are trying to achieve, all right? Now, as the AI transition happens, and as we travel back to the future, there are some aspects of self-leadership that probably we will leave behind, some we will carry along, and some we will develop afresh. So with that thought, let me list out some of these. Though this heading says declining, well, it is declining, but definitely it has not got eradicated. It's just that it is no longer a differentiator for excellence. So things like being a perfectionist, you don't have time to perfect things anymore, right? Extreme independence, when you joined probably 10 years ago into this role or more, the expectation was how quickly you become independent in your role. Okay, you know the tools, you know the product, everything, start to finish, all independently. Now you need not do that, right? Having the mastery over tools and processes, again, no longer that much necessary, because as you involve AI more and more, it will do things for you. What are the evergreen self-leadership traits? Again, self-explanatory. They will always remain, right? Learning agility, strategic thinking, judgment, problem solving. What is more interesting now is what you have to focus upon to develop. I have put 3 of them, there can be more. Cognitive flexibility. Can anyone tell me what it means? Absolutely. Cognitive flexibility, in my definition here, is your ability to change the way you think quickly when the context and the situation changes. Exactly, quickly unlearn and learn, quickly put new thought processes in place. That is what is cognitive flexibility. And AI, it's all about pace, right? So you should be flexible. Change ownership is a glorified word for adaptability, okay? Now, when things change, you will have to change with it. Not only that, you have to remain in charge when the change is happening. That is what is change in ownership. Otherwise, the change will overpower you and we will get overwhelmed. So staying in charge is also important. And value-centric mindset, we talked about impact, right? If you are making an impact, you are doing a value addition. Keep in mind that, yeah, what value you are adding to the content, what value the content is adding to the users. So that is the context. Manju, do you think leadership styles are also evolving with time?
Yes, let's take a look at that. So you would clearly see that there is a shift in leadership that's happening. And it's not just in how we are managing our work, but more importantly, how we are handling our people. So in the 1990s, the leadership style was very command and control, right? You would all agree it was extremely hierarchical. Decisions were made at the top, and all we had to do is just follow it. And leaders mostly cared about productivity. We had technology even back then, but didn't have much of a strategic role to play. It was more of a support function. So the mindset of people was just follow your leader, follow the process, just get the job done. By the 2000s, our world got bigger, it got more connected. Leaders started empowering people. They started collaborating across various departments. We saw digitization, we saw analytics, automation, and all of these gave leaders with sufficient data to understand the operations better, to help them make smarter decisions, and therefore guide their teams more effectively. And now, in the AI era, I think leadership has changed more than ever. Today, effective leadership is more about being human-centric. It's about being adaptive. It is less about, directing your people, and more about coaching them and enabling them. AI here is a collaborator. So if you see that transition, machines are getting smarter, of course, and our role as a leader, in fact, has to become more and more human during this transition. It's a subtle shift. If you think about it, it's a very subtle shift in mindset that we have to make. Rather than asking, how do I get the best out of my people? How do I bring out their best? What does that mean? Understand the strengths, the weaknesses of your people, and motivate to bring out the best versions of themselves. So that's how leadership has changed. And with that, Sanjib, I'll hand it over to you to go a deep dive into self-leadership traits.
Okay. So we were talking of transitions, right? And my clicker stops. What is evolving for the writers? We briefly talked about just a while ago, from being a perfectionist content crafter to be able to take the content from one stage to the next stage very quickly. So the rapid iteration fast. AI is going to improve the pace of product development as well, right? And you have to ensure your pace of content development matches to that. And you have to continuously make improvement. Progress over precise is the essence here. Again, some leadership traits that will come into play, we were just talking about it, right? Learning agility, problem solving, where we will put it to use. Use cases might be plenty, and I will give you some examples and you can chime in more. What you have to learn. In order to figure out the value addition is happening, the impact is happening, you being a content validator that AI has generated, you need to know the product, right? What value the product is adding, and that you can figure out by becoming a product expert. So probably you have to focus your learning about knowing the product much better than how much you used to know earlier. It's all about AI, so you should know what AI is capable of doing and how you are going to make AI do things for you, right? So AI competence, AI understanding is also important, where you have to put your learning abilities to use. Anything on the people leaders side where they have to focus their learning abilities on?
I mean, definitely. Learning is not something that's only focused on our writers, right? You heard Jason this morning say that today it's more than important or more critical for a leader to be hands-on. So it's not sufficient that I just take a problem statement, give it to my team, and expect them to come out with a beautiful solution. As leaders, you need to understand what the challenges they're facing, and that will happen only when you're learning with them, trying out some of these tools with them. So yes, learning not focused only for writers, very relevant even for people, leaders to succeed, especially in the AI era.
What else do you think we should focus on learning? Anyone? The delicious food has taken over. By the way, Manju and I prepared that menu.
Exactly.
It's true. Okay. Problem solving. What kind of problems you are going to solve? There are plenty of problems. One is mentioned here. Identify the edge cases. Most you would have seen that your bugs are around limitations and restrictions. Missing limitations and restrictions. Do you think AI will know those corner cases? Maybe, maybe not. So you have to solve that problem, how you are going to figure out those corner cases. AI is well trained on the generic stuff, but the edge cases, maybe not. And I did talk about this, match the pace of product development. You know, we were talking of the speed at which, I think Sam mentioned in his session, how fast they did the code refactoring. Well, think if 100 features are getting developed in one day, you can't even validate that much of content humanly, right? So probably AI only has to validate. It's a problem to solve. Agents can do that. Some more examples. Okay, independent task ownership to collaborative AI orchestration. So earlier, a writer was expected to do everything from start to finish, start from feature research, writing, structuring, publishing, bug fixing, whatnot. Now you are expected AI to do that. So you are orchestrating the AI tools. And at the end, you have to validate, right, whether your judgment will come into play. So two traits being called out here: cognitive flexibility, definition I gave you earlier, strategic thinking. Wrong button. Okay. Let AI do anything and everything that it can do. In the morning, Jason gave you a brilliant example of what not his AI agents are doing for him, right? So anything and everything AI can do, you should let it do. Figure out how it's going to benefit. Obviously, it should be a value addition in some way or the other. This also leads to the fact you will generate an AI first mindset. That is what Jason is doing, right? Shift perspectives based on users' real problem, because users' real problem AI may not be aware of. So more you learn about the product, more you learn about the users, you will figure out how the product can help users, and you will ensure that you are prompting AI in a way that it is generating content to solve that, right? So you have to use your cognitive ability to find the problems, real problems. On the strategic thinking front, you all have to do content strategy, right? Content strategy is a broad term. At your personal level, you have to strategize how much to write. Now, AI, if you ask write lot, it will write lot. If you ask AI to write less, it will write less. Now, how do you decide how much to write? It should be based on criticality of the feature. Earlier, or in general, when we say size up your feature, you said, okay, this is introducing 10 commands versus the other feature is introducing 5 commands. So the one that is introducing 10 commands is a bigger feature. And you write more about it. Instead of that, it is important that if the feature is critical, even if there are less updates made to the product, but it's a critical feature. So you have to write more about it. So this thought process is part of your strategy, right? Deciding when to use AI and when not to use AI. Today, AI is probably not doing everything for us, but maybe in future it will. And definition, everything can vary. But we are seeing every day, we are learning that AI can do much more than it was able to do yesterday. You can't be very forward looking, but with the things that are possible today, decide, strategize around what AI can do versus what it cannot. Okay, how did we measure value earlier? For a writer, number of features documented, number of pages published, number of bugs fixed. It was all about volume, right? It was a measure of quality of written content by the writer, but now you have to measure the quality of the content generated by AI, right? So this is how the transition is happening. Writers are there for content governance. And I foresee that content governance will also be done by AI to a good extent for the very fact that the scale of development is mind-blowing. So here you have to apply your ethical judgment. Content governance is all about judgment, right? And what you are going to judge? Spot confident but incorrect AI generated output. Have you ever seen AI giving you a response that I think I may be right or may be wrong? No, right? It's always confident. Whatever I'm saying is absolutely true. Evaluate risk of oversimplification. So I gave one example of, critical features need to be elaborated more. This is the reverse of it. You can ask AI to oversimplify things. Risky features have the risk of becoming more risky if they are oversimplified. Value-centric mindset is all about how your content is enabling your users to take decisions on how to use the product, how to reach their business goals. And measure impact, not output. It's not about volume, right? So all these self-leadership traits, what we are talking about, are in a way human differentiators, along with what you see here: judgment, purpose, curiosity, creativity. And these are the foundations for laying a strong teams who are ready for the AI times. They will need these traits, quite interlinked. And Manju is going to talk more about that.
Thank you, Sanjib. Okay, so as people leaders, we all genuinely want to lead in a human-centric way. But often we struggle. Is it because we don't care? Definitely not. It's because the environment around us makes human-centric leadership much, much harder than it actually sounds. So, I pretty much start my day every morning wanting to lead with empathy. But more often than not, by 11 o'clock or by noon, I have numerous WebEx pings. I have probably an escalation email that's waiting, a fast approaching deadline. And that's completely consumed most of my mind and my day, right? So as leaders, short-term pressures often overshadow long-term people development. And then we all have this quiet fear of losing control. There's a high visibility project. I want to give it to one of my new team members. I want them to succeed and do well. But there's always this voice in my head. If this goes wrong, it's all on me. So it's this fear that often makes delegation and empowerment feel extremely risky. And then let's think about a situation where, there is let's say a release deadline, and I see one of my team members is visibly stressed. What's my instinctive response? Let me just push through with this release. I'll talk to this person later. How many of us have this misconception that empathy slows things down? I have a different take. At that point, if I had taken a 2-minute or just spoken to that stressed out team member, I may have avoided burnout. There may be even some mistakes or rework, right? So empathy definitely doesn't slow things down. And then, many of us, I as well, transition from being an individual contributor to a people leader. I may not have got the required training or guidance about emotional intelligence. Skills like self-awareness, listening, handling conflict, all of this extremely critical. And as leaders, I think high EQ is what is essential to help our teams navigate through this AI era. And the most common one, the fear of vulnerability. None of us want to accept that we don't have the answers to these questions. Sometimes you even end up doing mistakes, and all of this can feel very risky. I do want to share my personal AI adoption journey here. We all see AI as a technology shift. Of course, it's a technology shift, but I feel it's also an emotional one, right? And I've experienced this firsthand with my team when we introduced several AI workflows into our content development process. For example, Stanley. What's Stanley? For the benefit of folks who haven't heard, this is our in-house AI assistant that's trained on Cisco's style guide on rules. So we all walked out of these demo meetings extremely excited, with a lot of curiosity in mind. But quickly, those turned into questions. How is this going to help me? Will the quality drop? How is my role going to be relevant? And this skepticism was very natural, right? And it was at varying degrees among my team members. So the skepticism became anxiety. And as a leader, I felt this was the most critical moment for me. Not for the technology transformation, but for the people. My role was not just to push these workflows and tools to the team, but it was to help them navigate through this emotional journey. It's only when I created, an environment for folks to speak up freely, to question these things, I could provide a safe environment, right? And that gave them the assurance, and that gave them the confidence to adapt and to start trying out. And very soon, we could see a shift. I could see a shift, right? People started experimenting freely, and some of them even discovered strengths that they didn't have. Together, we found a purpose, right? We all came to a common understanding that AI is here, definitely to elevate our potential and not here to replace us. And this journey was not easy. A lot of challenges along the way, but it is these very challenges that help us lead, grow, and succeed as a team. So just to quickly go through some of the strategies that we can use to succeed in this AI era as leaders. Leverage AI to amplify human potential. I think in many sessions today, you would have heard this. I probably want to take another example here and talk about this. We all would have heard, right? Documentation is a big driver of product CSAT. There are so many customer cases because of documentation gaps. We have heard these statements from engineering leaders and from various forums a couple of years ago. And I'm sure at least one of you or some of you in this room have tried to look at support cases and doing a deep dive of whether, we could get anything from that, right? Anybody care to share their experience? Bindu, you have definitely done some analysis of support cases, right? Want to share what your experience was?
This is a scenario from 5 to 6 years back where the ask was the same: analyze SR cases to see if documentation is the pain point. It's always said to be the pain point. So Namrata and I, we led this activity. We analyzed 7,000 upwards SR cases. It took about 2.5 weeks, 10 plus man hours. That's not something that's really doable in today's times. And that's exactly why we had to stop midway, because it's not a scalable venture at all. So,
exactly. Yeah. So you heard, right? The volume, the scale was just so massive that it was not possible for a writer to do this on a regular basis. Fast forward to today, and there's a booth also that you can visit. What we have is an AI case insights tool. What does this tool do? It looks at the support cases of all the products that we support today for a certain time period, analyzes those cases, and comes with a much trimmer list that have potential documentation impacts. So now I can go to Bindu and confidently say, hey, Bindu, from these case insights tools, I have 50 cases with clear indication that there is a documentation gap. So you see how AI handling all that repetitive, data-intensive analysis has freed a writer's time to actually focus on implementation. So AI definitely is here to empower us and not to replace us. And again, reiterating, double down on human connection. Very important to have those personal conversations. It's only in your one-on-one conversations you will actually hear the honest fears, right? Whatever they're thinking, and make sure that you're hearing them with intent. As leaders, I feel we should reward curiosity more than perfection. Curiosity, again, is something that you heard through the day, right? It's only then we create a safe environment for our writers. Personalized support and coaching, we need to create a culture of learning. It's not enough just to have very good writing skills. You need to have the AI literacy. You need to be extremely familiar with AI tools and understand the future needs of our customers. The way they're consuming content is very different. It's also for machines. So everything that's needed to support your teams to enable this and lead by example. You also learn and get familiar with these. The other one that I firmly and personally believe, co-creation with the teams. What does that mean, right? Work with your teams, understand what tools they're using, what challenges they're facing, solve those problems with them so that you understand the reality of what they're going through. If you are very passively just seeing what they're doing, you can't connect with those challenges. So teams trust leaders who are co-creating, solving problems with them. Finally, the human-first decision-making. AI is giving us a lot of data around quality, around productivity, but teams trust leaders who are using their own human judgment as well. Use AI as an enabler. Don't let it be the final decision maker. So it's your own experience, your own judgment, and all of that needs to come into play. So at its core, human-centric leadership puts people first. Their growth, their well-being, equally important as compared to organizational goals as well. So it's all about leading with the heart. That's how I'd like to call it, as much as with leading it with strategy, because we all know only when teams thrive, organizations thrive as well. Okay, to quickly summarize, you heard from Sanjib how self-leadership helps you lead yourself more effectively, and human-centric leadership helps you lead others. So quick run through of all this critical skills: self-awareness. Leaders who notice their own biases can understand what's the hidden anxiety behind your team's silence. Self-regulation. If you as a leader are looking confused and extremely reactive during this phase, you're going to pass that anxiety to your team, right? Only when you are calm, grounded, will your teams also feel safe to explore and experiment. A continuous culture of learning. Only when you show a learning mindset, your teams will be motivated to push themselves, push the boundaries. And finally, only leaders who know their inner compass can ensure that there is fairness and dignity in the way they lead and interact with their teams. So in conclusion, if self-leadership empowers you to manage your inner world better, human-centric leadership empowers you to uplift the world around you. And in this AI era, both of these skills are equally important. I would encourage all of you to attend. There is a workshop on leadership that Ishita is conducting. Please go and attend it if you want to develop these skills and understand how to bring some of these into practice. So with that,
a lot of things that you heard now might have sound obvious, right? It's like common sense. There's a transition happening. You have to show self-leadership. If it is common sense, why is not everyone exhibiting and being successful? Probably this quote covers it up. Fear is a reaction. Courage is a decision. So take the courage to drive yourself and remain relevant in the time of AI.
thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have time for questions?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Uday.
Mic runner, please.
Good one, actually. Convincing employees and teammates that AI will empower and not replace sounds good, but ultimately that decision is out of most of our hands. How do employees resolve that fear when replacement decisions are made by leadership?
Did the employee do enough to transform themselves as AI was transitioning the world? So if they have done enough, they would have taken up those steps to remain relevant. If they have done so, probably the management would decide to retain them. Now, it is quite obvious technical writer as a role we know from the past is literally gone, right? In coming days, no one is going to write. So if you think as a writer, your language mastery will help you be retained in the organization, probably not, right? And we have been talking about that AI first mindset, AI native mindset. That is quite important. Again, how you have evolved yourself, that matters. If you fail to evolve with the changing times, you are bound to be left behind. What more can I say?
Nothing more to add.
Anything else?
I mean, fear is fine. I mean, all of us are experiencing it. But don't get so lost in fear that, you're not able to move forward. That's what I would say.
Yeah. So it's like driving in the night in the dark. You don't slow down to a crawl because you can't see more than your headlights, right? So you drive confidently, seeing how much your headlight covers.
Yeah.
And right now, with what we've seen today, we haven't seen any potential for people losing their jobs. So confidently move into that space, and as your car moves ahead and your headlights cover more, you will see more opportunities and more avenues for you to expand your role. Your role of today is dying if it's not already dead, right? But you're already seeing avenues open up, and that will keep opening up.
Well said, Elder. Okay, with that we wrap up. Thank you everyone for your time and
Thank you,
staying awake
folks.
through the session, despite that fantastic meal we offered you.
Oh, it's
Better than today.
both Sanjeev and I have curated. So if you like today, tomorrow's also will be great. Oh, go ahead.
Do we
We
have
have
time?
time?
Okay, go ahead.
So the question is, as we accelerate AI adoption, what framework are we putting in place to help leaders manage varying AI proficiency levels while ensuring clear expectations, fair evaluation, and opportunities for upskilling?
Yeah, I mean, everything that I said, right? I mean, these are not, theories to be just put on a PPT slide. As leaders, I am hoping that you would all think that we are demonstrating some of those skills. If not, we need to upskill and understand that. So yes, we need to help our teams through this transition. We need to understand each individual's strength, weaknesses, their learning pace, and try to upskill them at, in areas where their strength lies. So understanding each of your team members and tailoring their training needs accordingly is definitely the role of a leader, right?
Switch it like that.
Any more questions?
Put it in your pockets on the other one.
That's a wrap. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Manju and Sanjeev, for a very insightful session. And I think it was a very relevant and a much needed session, because I think we have had many tracks covering AI about processes and solutions. But I think as a leader, how I should evolve is a very important aspect. Thank you so much. What I would like to reiterate to our audience is that I don't know if we lost the feedback form in the presentation, but I would like to remind you that there are feedback forms, the QR codes pasted on either side of the seating arrangement. So if you want to give in your feedback, please feel free to scan the code and send in our feedback. Thank you so much.